Bertram. Thanks for joining me today on Good Ship Happens. And yes, we've got a lot of really fun things coming up, of course, in the cruise industry. But also, one thing I want to share too goes back to what's going on as far as the government shutdown, okay, and how they affect different things as far as cruisers and traveling too. So, I want to share a little bit about that too. It might be helpful too, because once again, I am a big believer of getting travel insurance. There are great companies out there. One I've been using for years myself is Travel Alliance. Also, it's very important to get a insurance policy, not through the cruise line or travel line, separate travel insurance policy. Travel Alliance has been doing it for years. I have my own policy with them for a year. I need to renew it right now too. But anyway, the government shutdown. People are saying what's going on. Anyway, the big thing is, of course, we know that it's been really affecting flight delays like crazy. And right now, of course, Congress hasn't really approved funding for the finances of the federal government, and essential employees are required to keep working without pay, which is not good, but it's so sad. We've got to get through it. But anyway, the big thing is I know that we've had a lot of delays as far as flights. I've got one business professional. His name is Johnny, goes by Johnny Jet. That's his show, and he's an expert as far as flying. But he mentioned some different things too, and as far as how travel's been impacted by government shutdown. The big thing is, of course, we know there's a lot of delays with flights because they're short-staffed, of course, and also I know that National Park Services have been slowing down or paused too during the shutdown, which is really sad. And also as far as taking cruises, okay, and how this shutdown for the government would affect people taking cruises, it's less severe. However, the big thing is there's some impacts that people need to be aware of, and I think it's good to share those too, because once again, many cruisers actually transit through airports and fly destinations from which they, where their cruise ship is debarking. So anyway, what you need to do too is, it's good to also maybe fly in the day before because you know about delays. I have one business friend, she's got her own travel company, been doing it for years, and their connecting flights got delayed. But the point is, definitely right now, think about flying in the day before you actually board your cruise, because once again, you've got delays, and they've got short-staffed people too. The federal workers are essential, of course. And one thing they mentioned too is, in the great article I found, it just kind of mentions that the government shutdown is it's less severe for cruisers than for air travelers. However, there's still some impacts. So the big thing is, number one, definitely if you're planning to take a cruise, get one booked, make sure you fly in the day before, get a hotel lined up too, because that's important too, because that way you've got a day to play with too, rather than having to work for delays. One example that I'm doing too myself is I go to a cruise conference every year called Cruise World. It's fantastic. When they first started in 2010, I presented workshops at Cruise World. Also 2011, I get a chance to go there every year. It's a great conference. And when I got my flight booked back in the spring, I decided just to grab an early morning flight. The problem is the flight left at 5 o'clock in the morning from Chicago Midway Airport. Change of planes gets done at 12 noon. The event really starts more at 1 o'clock. But I thought that's really kind of stupid, because the point is I got to get way early. So I decided to do is be smart about it, okay? And I decided to change my flight to fly the day before. I got my hotel booked that first night myself too, which is much better. So once again, definitely, you don't want to miss a ship, okay? That's not an example of a ship happens, because once again, you want to make sure that you get down there earlier, and I think it's better to get down the day before, find a hotel, get some advice from a travel advisor. If you're not using one, find one. They're great people to help you too. And also, then you kind of get down there, relax, don't worry about missing the ship, okay? Because we call them ships, not boats, because you can put a boat on a ship, but you can't put a ship on a boat, okay? But definitely think about maybe flying the day before, okay? And as mentioned, we have no control as traveler and cruisers. You have no control of the government situation too. So once again, it goes back to, I know that cruise lines are really monitoring federal operations too. So keep that in mind too. And also, as mentioned too, is you need to have a passport which is valid for at least 6 months after you take your cruise. They've been doing that for years, but also if your passport is expiring soon, it's definitely worth postponing maybe your trip, because once again, right now, it's going to be taking longer to get your passport renewed now more than ever. So take a look at that too. Also, take a look at your itinerary. If you're cruising to and from destinations in the U.S. during the government shutdown, be prepared there could be some federally managed attractions, including parks and museums, of course, that are impacted in some way. So once again, have patience, of course, and respect people that are working, because once again, we're seeing a lot of delays with flights. It's taking longer to go through TSA, because like I said, they're for people too. So please keep that in mind too, because we've got to get through this government shutdown. Crossing my fingers, please get through the shutdown, please. But once again, be smart about it and be proactive. Definitely, once again, number one is if you're taking a cruise, make sure you fly down to that cruise destination you're sitting from a day before. Okay, so you have to race down, and then flights get delayed, you miss a ship. Okay, because once again, when the ship is ready to sail out, they sail out. So keep that in mind. Also, like I said, mention passports are required, and they're valid. They have to be valid at least 6 months after you finish your cruise. So if your passport's going to expire, get that done, because it's going to take longer right now too. Also, as mentioned, we're seeing a lot of impact as far as the natural parks, which is so sad, because those are being affected. The National Park Service is really being affected or paused, okay? And so it's hard to see different places too. I know, for instance, several museums and tourist attractions sites in Washington, D.C. are also closed down. And like I said, we're feeling the impact too, okay? We don't know how long this shutdown is going to take place. The last time that a shutdown occurred in the United States took place 2018-19, and that lasted 35 days, and it caused $3 billion in government losses, which is really, really sad. So hopefully we got to get through this fast too, but like I said, just be prepared, have a backup plan, fly down the day before your cruise actually disembarks, or actually getting on the cruise ship, fly down the day before, find a hotel, just relax, that way you get down there safely. Because the big thing is, with cruise lines, they're not really delaying their ships. Once again, too, is just be proactive on it too. So definitely think about changing your flight, fly down the day before. That's exactly why I changed my flight to attend this conference, because once again, leaving at 5:05 in the morning is kind of stupid. You have to get up earlier to get to the airport and get checked in. So I thought, just be smart about it. Fly in the day before. I got extra hotel night booked myself. I can relax that day in the afternoon, grab dinner, maybe see a friend or two, and then, like I said, get to the conference earlier. That's fine too, okay? So definitely keep in mind, because we don't know how long it's going to go on. But anyway, past that, we've got some really, really wonderful things going on in the cruise industry too, of course. We have a lot of famous chefs in the industry. One I absolutely adore is Rudy Soderman. He is he started with the Holland American Line for years, and then of course Holland American Line is owned by Carnival Corporation. So he's got his restaurants on different corporation ships, including, of course, Carnival, also Princess Cruises. He's wonderful, but he's such a great, great, great chef. But something fun that came up too is another famous ship who actually has his restaurant coming on the Oceanic Cruises, which is great. His name is Jacques Pepin, and he's going to be, his restaurant, Jacques, is going to be aboard their newest ship, Oceania Allura. And what's great too is, he's also their founding executive culinary chef, Jacques Pepin. And as mentioned, with the Oceania Cruises ship, Oceania Allura, docked in Boston in October 6th, they honored Chef Pepin with a ceremonial opening and luncheon, of course. And he shared his heartfelt remarks too, which is great too. Also, they mentioned we first debuted Jacques, that's the name of his restaurant, aboard their Oceana Marina in the following year on the Oceana Riviera. And I'm delighted to see this wonderful reiteration of a much-loved culinary revenue on board their newest ship, the Oceana Allura, and a sister ship, the Oceana Vista, says Jacques Pepin. He says Oceana Cruises is really a legacy of culinary excellence, integrity, creativity, and culminating into a new chapter of Jacques, which they're celebrating today too. So that took place on October 6th, okay? And with Jacques Pepin, I actually had a chance to meet him in 2001. He actually had been working on the cruise line, was their chief culinary chef, and he actually was on board this cruise ship, okay? And I got a chance to meet him. I had a signed copy of his book, which is great too, but he's a great, great, great chef. His cuisine is just phenomenal. And once again, to now have been worked with Oceana Cruises, that's great too, because once again, he's a famous chef, of course, from France, Jacques Pepin, which is great too. I think yes, signature French restaurants, one they are opening on their new ship, the Oceana Allura. And once again, as far as what they're doing as far as what's going to be the menu on their Jacques menu continues new flavors with their classics. These include dishes such as duck l'orange with Grand Marnier, medallions with Royal sauce, and also timeless desserts like the crepe Suzettes and I think it's pronounced profils. And also they got new additions include double eggs topped with smoked trout roulette and caviar, as well as preparations of beef tartare and also sea bass and croûte for two. And it's really kind of fun too, because like I said, having been originally 2001, when I was working with a different cruise line, and they really kind of revolutionized cuisine back then. That was Celebrity Cruises. But he is a famous chef. His cuisine is phenomenal. But how fun that Jacques Pepin's restaurant, Jacques, is going to be on the new Oceana Allura. Okay. And as mentioned, they did this big ceremony about that too. And as mentioned, check out Oceana Cruises. They do, they're small ship luxury and really signature cuisine too. So once again, too, it's fun that they've got Jacques Pepin's restaurant, Jacques, on their new ships, which is great too. So keep in mind too, because once again, cuisine on cruise lines is phenomenal anyway, but they partner with famous chefs over the years, ram it up different level too. And once again, as mentioned, Oceana Cruises mentioned, Jacques actually debuted 14 years ago on their Oceana Marina, then the following year, and their Oceana Riviera, and once again too is the Oceana Allura, and her sister ship Oceana Vista is going to also have Jacques on board too. So that's really fun, I think, too, because once again, it's really, with Oceana Cruises, look them up. They're really small ship luxury and also signature cuisine too. So that was kind of fun. They just announced that too, which is great too. So yes. As far as new ships coming out too, we've got plenty of new ships coming out, of course. And one, of course, coming out is the, it's actually Scenic Group, which has Emerald Cruises, but they just announced the godmother for their new ship coming out. It's their Emerald Astra, and what they did was they announced their godmother. Their godmother for the new Scenic Group ship is the Emerald Star, and they named her name is Tony Day, and she has Tony Tours. She's the godmother for Emerald Star ship Emerald Astra, and that's going to be christened in Amsterdam in May next year, which is great. And she's got a phenomenal story, okay? As far as Tony's story, she founded Tony Tours, a boutique agency specializing in luxury ocean and river cruises in 2004, okay? And over 4 decades, she'd become one of Scenic Group's top global sellers too, which is great too. And but what's fun too is how she got into doing that is her career before that. She actually was previously to that. She was with the New York City Fire Department, where she became a deputy chief of emergency medical services, and was a first responder stationed at Ground Zero during the rescue recovery operation following the September 11th attacks in 2001. But to move on from being formerly working with the New York City Fire Department, where she became a deputy chief for emergency medical services, and being a first responder is just phenomenal too. And what's great too is Ken Musk, who was actually the president of Scenic Group USA, mentions we're deeply honored to welcome her as godmother for Emerald Astra and to celebrate her as a part of the Scenic Group family, which is great too. But what a great story. And Ken also says that, she mentioned that it's such an incredible honor to be named godmother of the Emerald Astra, especially since Astra is a word of Latin and Greek meaning origin meaning stars, which is great too. She said, throughout my life, I've always believed in reaching for the stars, whether serving my community or helping travelers discover the world, she said too, which is great too. And as mentioned, the ship she's going to be christening as godmother, the Emerald Astra, is the first in the new generation ships too. And they mentioned they just did the ship hull, and that one's actually the launch too. The ship's thing being built right now. But what they did was a ceremonial launch of the ship's hull was held at Scenic Group's shipyard on September 30th too. And as mentioned, it's going to join the Scenic River in 2027. So that's really kind of exciting news, isn't it? Excuse me. As far as, like I said, Emerald Cruises also has another ship coming out in April next year. It's Emerald, I think it's pronounced Kaya, and that's coming out in April 2026. Our guest capacity is just 128 guests, and our normal sailing is going to be on April 4th of 2026. It's an 11-day Mediterranean cruise from Cyprus to Athens. And then her main scene is going to be the Mediterranean, Adriatic, and Aegean Seas. Okay. Also, got another ship coming out too in April, and that's actually Norwegian Cruise Lines. Their new ship, the Norwegian Luna, is coming out April 2026, and they haven't really set the inaugural sailing. She's coming out in April next year, but her capacity is going to be 3,550 guests. Okay, and they'll mention more about her debut, of course. Later on, they'll mention who the godmother is too. It's always fun to find out who godmothers are. Plus, remember, cruise lines sometimes have godfathers too, which I've mentioned before, which is great too. And with the christening of the ship too, it's like a traditional service too. What they do is a way to bring good luck to that ship in the ocean. It's been a tradition for years and years and years too, which is great too. And of course, we have another ship coming out with Royal Caribbean, and that is going to be coming out in July next year. That's their Legend of the Seas, and as mentioned, the Legend of the Seas is a sister ship to Icon Seas, also Star of the Seas, and she'll be coming out in July 2026. Now remember that with Royal Caribbean and their Icon class ships, including Icon Seas, which came out last year, Star of the Seas, which just came out this year, they have chief dog officers. Okay, now I have a feeling, haven't heard yet though, I have a feeling that Legend of the Seas might have another chief dog officer on board too. Okay, and what they do is probably announce it later, but I'm sure they will. I'm crossing my paws. They'll have another chief dog officer on their new ship coming out next year, Legend of the Seas, and it should be a golden retriever. Of course, I'll find out more too later on. They'll mention it later on too. I don't think they'll be mentioning it too much at the Cruise World Conference I'm going to in November, but later on, of course, because with Legend of the Seas, she debuts in July next year, next summer too, which is great too. But just keep in mind, because once again, have a feeling that they will have another chief dog officer because people love Rover, they love Sailor, and what's great too is what their chief dog officers on each of those two ships. Star of the Seas has Chief Dog Officer Sailor. Also, we've got Rover, who is the Chief Dog Officer on Icon of Seas, but they're there to create, happiness and fun for guests, of course, too, but also for their crew members, too, because they just adore seeing those two dogs separately, which is great, too, so keep in mind, too. We also have another ship coming out, Four Seasons Yachts, okay? Their first ship was supposed to be coming out this year. They delayed it, so their ship is coming out next spring. Okay, it's called the Yacht One, and that's the one that has got a very, very famous captain that they hired. It's Captain Kate McHugh. She's got a phenomenal story. I've met her and written about her, which is great, but what she did was she'd been working on different cruise ships, and then 2015 is when or 14 is when Celebrity Cruises reached out to her to see if she would be interested in being their chief officer over the Celebrity Cruise Line ships. She agreed to do that, and she got very, very famous. She's big on social media, did great posts. She's gorgeous. I've met her, and she also had her cat on the board of the ship with her, okay, and she had a special social media channel. Her cat's name was Bug, but Bug didn't have a lot of fur. So what she did was her social media channel was called Bug Naked. And one time she did a special, it was supposed to be like a trivia contest. They announced it, and people just jammed where she's going to have that trivia contest with Bug, of course. And what's great too is, in this case, when people raised their hands and got the answers right, she actually had Bug meow. Okay, Bug unfortunately passed away in December last year, so she stepped down, take a break. Once again, too, she is now going to be the captain of the Four Seasons. Their first ship called the Four Seasons. It's a Yacht One coming out in, I think, a couple months in first part of 2026. Okay, maybe I think March. Okay, but that's good too. Plus, there are smaller ships. Capacity for the Four Seasons yachts they accommodate 190 guests. And like I said, they've got more ships coming out because they got their Four Seasons first yacht coming out, I think, in March next year. So I'll share more with that later on too. But how fun to have another woman who's captain of that ship, which is great too. Something else too is we've got Explorer. Explorer Journeys is a luxury cruise line, and they're owned by the MSC Group, which is family owned. As far as MSC Group, just to share more about them too, is they are family owned. And with the MSC Group, they were founded by the Aponte family. And years ago, they actually had their Mediterranean shipping company, okay, container shipping company. They've done that for years and years and years. And then the family decided to maybe get into cruising. And that's when they started MSC Cruises about 35 years ago. And they're well known, but the thing is, they sail more in Europe, decided to really engage their presence in the U.S. So what they did was they decided to actually open an office in South Florida in 2004 to really to get people to know who MSC Cruises was. And I've sailed on their ships. They're gorgeous and just beautiful ships. They're the ones who have their own private island in the Bahamas, Ocean Cay MSC Marine Reserve, which is great. I've been there several times now. Great. But all they did was they decided to get into luxury cruising, and they decided not to use the word cruising. So what they did was it's called Explorer Journeys. And their motto is to bring ocean life to sea, which is great too. And they've got their Explorer 3 coming out in August next year. And as far as their ships, they have, based on the capacity, they accommodate 929 guests. It's 926 guests. And I know that their inaugural season's going to take place August 3rd next year. She'll be offering a 7-night Barcelona to Lisbon cruise. And as far as where she's going to be sailing, her main season is going to be doing Mediterranean, of course, first. Northern Europe, Greenland, Iceland. How fun is that? Also, East Coast, United States, plus Caribbean, too. And then they've got other ships coming out later on, too, in 2027. They still are working on the dates, of course, too. But right now, Explorer 1 has been sailing for a couple of years. Explorer 2 started sailing 2 years ago. Explorer 3 is coming out this next year in August. And they got more ships coming out too in 2027 and 2028. They got Explorer 4, 5, and 6. Okay, and each of these will accommodate just 929 guests too, which is great too. So keep it in mind too. As far as Carnival, they've got a new ship coming out in 2027. It's called the Carnival Festival, and that's coming out in 2027. Guest capacity for that one will be 6,400 guests, I think. And they got 49 different cabin categories too. Okay. And then I'm talking about ships coming out 2027. Yes, they plan things out because it takes longer to build a ship too. It's a good way to kind of build the energy too. But anyway, with MSC Cruises, their World Atlantic is coming out 2027, and that's going to be sailing out of Port Canaveral, which is fun. It's a great port. I've been there a long time ago, but also her capacity will be 6,774 guests too. Also, Oceanic Cruises. I mentioned Oceanic Cruises because they're the ones that have partnered now with Jacques Pepin. His restaurant's now on board their new ships, which is great. He's phenomenal chef, amazing. But they've got their Oceana, I think it's pronounced Sonata, coming out summer 2027. Her capacity on that ship will be just 1,450 guests, and there's still plenty of room more about that too. We've also got another Carnival ship besides the Festival coming out 2027. We've also got the Carnival Tropical coming out in 2028. That will have a capacity of 6,400 guests. And as mentioned, what's great too is we've got, of course, coming out this year, later in November, we've got the new Celebrity Excel ship coming out too. And I know Celebrity mentioned they've got their 6 Edge class ship coming out 2028. Our capacity is going to be just 3,260 guests, which is great too. And then we've got, right now they've got Viking Ocean Cruises, and they've got 2 ships. One coming out 2028, one coming out 2029. And with Viking, they offer really great experiences too. And guest capacity is just 998 guests too. That's for the Viking Ocean Cruises too. And we've got, let's see here. I know Disney's got more ships coming out. They haven't really named them yet, nor the capacity, but Disney Cruise class ships have, Disney Cruise Line has ships coming out right now, 2029, 2030, 2031 too. So once again, it's kind of fun. New ships coming out. So many out there too. It gets kind of confusing. Once again, it goes back to think about what you're looking to do, where you want to go. Do you want something bigger, smaller, more intimate? Where do you want to travel to too? Because once again, there's so many ships options out there too. We've got, of course, like I said, it's great with even like the new, Brilliant Lady, which just debuted earlier, about a month or 2 ago. That is actually the new Virgin Voyages cruise ship, but she's actually offering cruises. What's great too, she actually had her debut. She sailed from New York City, and she went, Bermuda, came back, and now she's doing this transition cruise going from down to Port Miami, where she's going to be sailing from. And then she'll actually be doing a cruise through the Panama Canal to California, and then she'll go to actually Seattle to offer cruises to the Alaska next year, which is great too. So that's really great too. That's a Brilliant Lady. And once again, with Virgin Voyages, that is Richard Branson's cruise line. And what they do is, it's really kind of fun too, because what they do is they call their cruise guests sailors, okay? They've got great experiences. I'm in the process of writing about the Brilliant Lady, which just debuted about a month or 2 ago, but also with the Brilliant Lady, what's great too is, like their other ships too, is they have different, they call them Italy's, okay? And what they do is, they're different restaurants with different cuisine. They're all included. So with the case of Virgin Voyages, if you want an option as far as to avoid the big dining rooms, they don't do that. And the dining options, different restaurants are all included too, which is great too. And there are different taste cuisines too, so keep in mind too. Got diverse entertainment on board too. And with Virgin Voyages, we talked about this before, because once again, Virgin Voyages is for adults only. You have to be 18 years old to sail on Virgin Voyages. But the Brilliant Lady sounds beautiful. I love the word sailors, which is great. And as mentioned, they just bring a whole new dimension to sailing, right? Not cruising, sailing, because it's a voyage, which is great too. And also, we've got, of course, another ship coming out with Windstar Cruises. Windstar Cruises has been around for a while. Beautiful ships, smaller, but they've got their new ship coming out, the Star Seeker. And I think it's supposed to be coming out in December. It might be coming out in January now this year, next year. But anyway, they have a guest capacity of 224 guests. Looks like they're still having their normal sailing, I think, December of this year. A 17-day transatlantic Malaga to Miami. And their main scene is going to be in the Caribbean, Alaska, Japan. And then, of course, we've got the Norwegian Loom, which I talked about before, too. That's actually Norwegian Cruise Line's new ship coming out April next year, too. And as far as other ships, I've talked about these two, but the ones that already were coming out this year and still coming out, too, looks great, is we've got, of course, with the Ritz-Carlton yacht, their ship called the Luminera actually debuted earlier in July this year too. And once again too is with the Luminera, that's the newest addition to the Ritz-Carlton Yacht Collection, which includes luxury cruising with a boutique hotel sophistication too. And what's great too is passenger capacity is just 452 guests. So that ship already came out, and that's Ritz-Carlton, that's their Luminera. And we've got, of course, Oceania Cruises, their Allura, just debuted in July this year too, which is great. And that's also, like I said, Oceania Cruises. And of course, I talked before about Star of the Seas, which is the new Royal Caribbean ship, came out in August this year with their chief dog officer, Sailor, of course. And with Virgin Voyages, Brilliant Lady just debuted in September this year, and it looks beautiful. I'm writing an article about it right now too, but it's great because that's their fourth ship. And remember, they have adults only policy. They've got so many different dining venues, wellness programs, entertainment tailored for a mature audience, which is great too. Once again, with their dining venues, of course, they're included. Okay. Because sometimes with cruise lines, other cruise lines, they might have a special restaurant. You pay more for that special restaurant too. But with Virgin Voyages, they don't have main dining rooms. They decided not to go that route too, because once again, they really want to focus on experiences for their guests on board, their sailors. What they do is, of course, with the Brilliant Lady, she just debuted on September 5th, and she's now sailing down to Miami. She'll be offering some Caribbean cruises, and then she'll be going through the Panama Canal later on, which sounds phenomenal, and then go to California, and then she will be starting cruises later on when the Alaska season opens up. She'll be sailing from Seattle to Alaska, which is great, next year. So once again, keep it in mind, because that's Brilliant Lady's fourth ship with Virgin Voyages, adults only, diverse entertainment. They've got more than 21 different dining venues, which is great. They're included, of course, and also they got special bonus programs, and their entertainment is phenomenal. I got a chance to see the Scarlet Lady when we first started sailing in Miami a couple years ago after we went through the pandemic. It was great to see the ship too, and it's just great they're doing too. That's really fun too. Another new ship coming out, going to be christened, of course, is going to be Princess Cruises, the Star Princess. Okay, that's Princess Cruises' new ship, the Star Princess, and she's going to be, I think, christened. I think she'll be christened November 7th, I think. Okay, and what's great too is with Princess Cruises, of course, they actually started years ago, because they were actually what kind of launched the Love Boat TV series, and that's what really engaged people into thinking about taking a cruise, right? And the new ship, the Star Princess, is coming out this fall. And it's their second, they call them a Sphere class ship, which is great too. But that's really fun too. And I know that with Princess Cruises, the Sun Princess, they announce godparents. Mentioned last week, but their godparents include Matthew McConaughey and his wife as the godparents for the new Sun Princess. Okay, but that is really, really fun too, because like I said, that ship is going to be christened. I think it's November 7th, I believe. But as mentioned, they mentioned it's going to be the Matthew McConaughey and his wife going to christen the ship, which is great too. Those are the godparents. Okay, but how fun too. And once again, too, as far as that's coming out too, and of course we've got the Celebrity Cruises new ship coming out too. That's actually going to be coming out later on. The Celebrity Excel is coming out November 18th. Okay, and what's great too is the Excel is coming out on November 18th, and it's their final ship in their Celebrity Edge Class series. Once again, they're doing some great things in that too, and Celebrity does a great job with everything they do too. And that's coming out, of course, on November 18th, so that's really exciting too. And of course, another Disney ship coming out this year still is actually the Disney Adventure, coming out December 27th. Okay, and with Disney Adventure, they have a capacity of 6,000 guests, and it's really kind of exciting what they're doing too, because Disney does a great job with their ships. And I think she's going to be home ported actually in Singapore, which offers different family-friendly amenities too, which is great too. But how fun, as far as new ships and godparents instead of just godmother, godfather too. And so that's kind of a good recap of what's going on in the cruise industry right now too. But also, as mentioned too, is with the government shutdown, we have to make sure we get through. The point is just be very, very proactive, okay? As mentioned, if you're taking a cruise, make sure you can try and fly down the day before. Get down there earlier yourself, because we have a lot of traffic delays and delays, which is not good. Also, make sure, this is a rule too, because once again, when you're taking a cruise, you're taking a trip, your passport has to be valid 6 months after you get off the ship too. That's just a mandatory thing they do too. So make sure, if you're thinking about taking a cruise, definitely apply for the passport now, because it's going to take longer because of the government shutdown too. But once again, we got new ships coming out, and a lot of different variations going on too, as far as things to see and where to go to. Because once again, something else too is Celebrity Cruises. You know, they're launching the river cruise lines too. And what they're doing too is they've got their Galapagos Expeditions is now open for booking too. That's something except they've been doing for a while too. They go to the Galapagos Islands, okay? The Galapagos Islands only allow certain ships to go there too, because once again, it's very, very small. I had a friend a long time ago who did that with her family. She took her family there for a special celebration. But Celebrity Cruises, their Galapagos Expeditions, on their ship called the Celebrity Flora, are now open for 2027 bookings too. And these are all inclusive, and they last 7, 10, 11, or 16 nights. And their Celebrity Flora is a 100-passenger mega yacht specifically designed for the Galapagos. It features all-inclusive accommodations, gourmet dining, exceptional hospitality. Also, what they do is guided by expert naturalists through the Galapagos Natural Park, where guests can really explore the stunning nature and wildlife of the volcanic Archipelago. And also they've got different experiences, including glamping under the stars, which is fun, snorkeling with sea lions, and also sea turtles, kayaking with sea turtles, coastal explorations with volcanic cliffs, and guided giant tortoise tours too. And once again too is with Celebrity Cruises too is they focus, of course, on the environmental national park too, which is great too. it's called, they're celebrating 10 years actually of progress in their, it's called Scalicia Forest Station Project, partnering with the Galapagos National Park too. It's called Rewinding Galapagos Initiative. This program really invites us to really restore natural habitats and also protect endangered wildlife too. So that's another option to think about too, because it's so exciting to see what cruise lines are doing as far as really kind of working on ways to really restore wildlife, restore the ocean water too. A good example there too is with cruise lines, what they do is they're actually going on to being net zero emissions by 2050, and they're already doing that right now too. Cruise ships are now operating their ships on liquefied natural gas. New ships are coming out with liquefied natural gas, also with different ports and places where the cruise ships dock, including Port Miami. They have shore power, so the ships can actually plug in, get their shore power there too, which is great too. And also, like so, the Embassy Foundation and with their Ocean Cay Embassy Marine Reserve, that's their private island. That's also with the where they've got, of course, they're building coral reef trees, which is great there too. So that's really great too. But just what they're doing as far as sustainability is really things people need to know about, because it's been at least a couple years that cruise lines actually eliminated plastic straws. They don't have plastic straws in their ships at all. They recycle like crazy in a good way, even recycle food, which is great too, because once again, we don't need to put that stuff in the ocean too. And of course, no single-use plastics either too, which is great too. So that's really great too. But like I said, sustainability is one thing that cruise lines are working on together too, which is great too. And as fun too is also with the new, the Brilliant Lady, which just came out. Besides different, 20 some different eating options, of course, they also have a special ice cream ice cream parlor. It's called Lick Me Till, which is great. And it's just that I had a chance to actually experience Lick Me Till, and the Scarlet Lady. I was there a couple years ago when the ship was finally departing from Port Miami, and the ice cream was just so wonderful. And I mentioned too with Virgin Voyages, it's still only, you have to be at least 18 years or older, okay? But different entertainment on board, different restaurants. You make reservations for your restaurants. They're complimentary, of course, to make them in advance. I got 3 different tiers, of course, how you can do that too, but keep in mind too, that's great too. And of course with, it's great because like I said, you got so many options out there as far as cruising too. Different ships, big ships, also cruising in the rivers in the Europe, which is great. Also, you got, of course, with Waterways. They launched earlier this spring their first ship sailing on the Magdalena River in South America, which is great. I think they're getting ready to launch their second ship there too, but how fun to actually sail on the Magdalena River in South America too. And also with Waterways, they do also river cruising on the Nile River in Egypt too, which is great too. So keep it in mind too, because some of the options are out there too, which is great too. So keep it in mind, because once again, new ships, but also focusing on sustainability and restaurants, dining, partner with great chefs, which is phenomenal. As mentioned, I had actually had the pleasure of meeting Jacques Pepin back in 2001 when we worked with another cruise line. And he really kind of reinvented cuisine at that time too. And of course, another great person, of course, is Rudy, Chef Rudy. I've met him several times. He's a great chef. His cuisine is so beautiful. It's almost too pretty to eat too. And as mentioned, having chief dog officers, which Royal Caribbean does too. And I'm sure they will probably really be announcing a new chief dog officer for their new ship coming out next year. Haven't mentioned yet, but I'm sure they will have another chief dog officer on their new ship coming out next year, which is a sister ship to Seas and also Star Seas. So keep it in mind, because that is really funny. The new ship coming out next year is, of course, Legend of the Seas. Okay? And now we need to talk about, or show you more dogs too. The chief dog officers themselves, they're great.
As we're designing the best family vacation, there was one piece that was missing, which is, of course, the family dogs. And when guests go on vacation, one of the key things that they miss are their pets back home. And when our crew are sailing on board for their contracts, one of the things they miss are their pets back at home. And so we really wanted to make sure we brought a fluffy addition to our crew family. We went and got Rover, and here we are now for Star. We're picking up Sailor, and Sailor will be living on Star of the Seas.
Well, the Chief Dog Officer was an idea that we created actually when we were developing and concepting the Ultimate Family Townhouse. We were all sitting around saying, you know, when you think about the Ultimate Family Townhouse, what does that mean? And all these ideas came around, and somebody threw out the idea of having a family dog. And we said, well, it feels a little selfish to have a family dog for just one family. Why don't we have a family dog for the family on board the ship? And so that's how the position evolved, and we thought, well, obviously it's a very important position, and of course all important positions on ships are called chief, so we thought Chief Dog Officer is perfect.
When we first came up with the idea for Project Rover or Project Sailor, we realized we don't really know a lot about what it means to take care of a dog on a cruise ship. And so we partnered with some of the most well-respected animal well-being certifiers globally to really help us create this program from the ground up and make sure that when Rover and Sailor are on board, they're having the best day every day.
So there's a very well-written, crafted position description that, of course, the Chief Dog Officer can't read. The key mission is to have fun, and that's exactly what Rover and Sailor do. You know, they just have fun.
So Sailor is very small. She's about 16 weeks. And so when Sailor gets on board, she's going to, take everyone's breath away. Sailor's life on Star will be full of adventure. She and her Chief Dog Officer role really means that she gets to go and explore the ship, go and explore our private destinations with our crew members, really just being that warm, welcoming family for her.
Oh, I just totally fell in love with Sailor. I fell in love with Rover as well, but I also fell in love with Sailor. She's so beautiful and loving and funny, and so I just completely fell in love. When we were thinking about the idea, one of the questions was, well, what will the crew think? Will the crew like the idea or not? And so one of the team members had a golden retriever and volunteered to bring the golden retriever down to one of our ships on a turnaround day, and we fitted the dog with a GoPro camera. It was very touching because after when we watched the video, so many crew stopped and hugged the dog and talked to the dog. When we saw that, we thought, wow, this is amazing. People miss their own family dogs.
And as we've done with Rover, as we're doing with Sailor, we really want to make sure we're focused on what's best for these animals. And really right now our focus is on Sailor and making sure that she is having the best life at sea when she gets on Star of the Seas in August.